Much.
All right. Thank you, Madam Nanchi, for this opportunity to share my experience with a larger group. Like I mentioned to you earlier on, that I hope some people didn't come with the notion that I was going to teach them how to snap photos or take photo shots. There is more to what I'm going to be presenting today. I just hope you would follow along. And in case, like she have mentioned, if you have any question or anything, please just kindly make or raise your hand. So I'll try as much as I can to answer some of the questions. And in case you have any opinion you would want to share for us to learn, I'll be happy if you can share that with the group as well. So what I'll be talking on today is all about photography, and it's more of my experience in the photography and how it has been with conservation. So you would notice that there is more that is on photography, the art, the science, than the technique in terms of the machine itself. All right, so I'll be taking you through these few points, or what you would call table of contents. Now, I want to really give this to Madam Nanchi. I really struggled with trying to, I mean, it's quite broad to talk about photography. So I was really looking out for how can I minimize this for me to carry people along when I'm talking about the photography and how it can be used as a tool for conservation or for conservation advocacy. And with this, I had to arrive at this point, which are actually inspired by Nanchi. So first and foremost, I will do an introduction. Uh, from the little I've read about photography, I had to come up with this figure, which basically defined what photography is in terms of the art and science and what it is all about. And I learned that photography itself is from the Greek word photo, referring to light, and then graphy simply means to draw. And I agree with this definition because I don't know if there is anybody who has ever been in the darkness and is trying to take photo and you didn't have flashlight. At the end, you have just a dark photo. And I also remember in some of those old cameras that will require a dark space for you to really take photo. I mean, with that dark environment, you need light to come in. So this is just a basic principle that was drawn or derived from the principle of an eye. For somebody to really have good vision, you need light. And so this makes it much more better for the understanding of what a camera is and what photography is. And I would say again that photography itself is an art of science or science of art. So you can't talk about science without talking about the art of photography, and you cannot talk about the art of photography without talking about science. And this is where I'm coming from. And most of us that are here believe that some of us are scientists, some of us are biologists, and in biology, some of us are ornithologists, some of us are botanists, some of you are conservationists, and many more. And in all of this, we're talking about science, but the science itself is not complete without the art. So as still a way of introduction, I have just tried to list this here. I think there is about 15 of the different group of photography. And some of them, I've attempted some of them, I just recall some few days ago, that was on the 8th, 7th and 8th. I follow NASA with all the astronomical studies they've been doing. And I discovered that I think Saturn or Venus or one of those planets was going to be close to the moon. I recall going out to go and get some photos of it, and it's just awesome to believe that, oh, there is a planet that has those rings, and I can actually see it from where I am. And the limitation is that uh, the cameras and the telescope and all of those things to use are still not at my disposal. So there are so many aspects of photography that is fun to do. It has this satisfaction it gives you when you actually define the purpose behind each of the different groups. And so nature photography, like you can see, is something I have been doing. I started it somehow without knowing I was already doing photography some years ago when I would attempt to use small phones to take photos or get small cameras to take some photos. And this graduated into me saving to get some camera, of different kinds. And I recall having this film camera. Some of you remember it very well. I still have one to date, and I've decided to keep it as an archive to probably show my children or show the next generation when it's finally, I hope it wouldn't phase out anyway. So there are two types of cameras, basically. I'll just mention these two that is known to me and my generation. At least I met the film camera, and I've also met the digital camera. So there is a transition. I had to grow up from having a film camera to now a digital camera. And in the digital camera, I've been able to get the mirror and the mirrorless camera. So, it's something very interesting, and I still look forward to, you know, buying some camera that I can use to do photography as either a career or maybe something I just love doing. So the intersection of science and art in photography. Science and art has a point they meet. And this point basically is it depends on where you want to look at it from. But for me, I'm looking at it from the figure you can see here. That is more or less like a cycle or like a triangle where series of activities is taking place. And so you have photography, and in photography, you have the science, you have the art. There is just one common thing both is trying to do, which is to communicate or pass on an information or give a message. And these messages can come from our environment, like you heard me mention. Uh, Using photography as a tool for advocacy means is a tool that you can use to drive on a point or pass on a message. And to pass on a message means there has to be a problem, or there has to be an issue that needs to be addressed, or there has to be a message coming from somewhere that needs to be related to another point, and so many other things. So you need an environment, not just an environment, a good environment. So generally, the environment provides us with the avenue to be able to practice any of those photographic groups I mentioned just some few minutes or seconds ago. So, and in the intersection, you need the environment, basically. You need the inhabitants of that environment to pass a message. And what is the message you would want to pass across? What is it that you want to tell people that brings the message about the thing you want to tell them? Now, I said the beauty of science is in the art of creativity. For me, I am happy to always be in the bush. I'm happy to always take a walk to the bush to see nature, to see some rare events. to see something that is new or unique. And so those unique things has to do with the creativity nature has in place for us to use as the message or as the tool to pass on a message. Like the photo you see on the right is actually a very small insect, the corn, I think the corn antenna fly. I was just seated by the river somewhere around the Nigerian Cameroon border, and I noticed something very tiny. I I couldn't see it with my eyes until I had to use the camera to zoom down to see that, oh, there were two flying insects that were mating. And this hole alone, when I had to take the photo to show the rangers that were with me, it took them a long time for them to agree with me that, oh, so there were insects that our eyes cannot really see. And that was where I had to pass a message across to them that, yes, there is a lot more that our eyes cannot see. Where we have some of these devices to help us convey these messages about what is in our environment and how we need to care for our environment. How are we supposed to uh, take care of the gift we have from nature? It takes a lot of skills to really master this art. Uh, it's been more than 15 years or more since I started the photography, and I'm still in the growth process. So I had to learn to use the manual settings and many other things to get good photos. There are times I would have to observe the environment to see what the whole atmosphere look like and know what kind of settings I need to do on my camera to get a perfect photo. And one of it is what you can see on the right-hand side. It's the Gemsensis cobra, also known as the green mamba. It was found somewhere still along the Cameroon highlands, and the forest was dark. So I had to use the manual setting on the camera. There is this button or the knob that you have to turn. You'll see a place where there is an M and all of those things. I've learned that when you're in a shade, you have to just use that and adjust your ISO to get good photo. And that will take a lot of learning to master some of these processes. Like I said, this environment we're talking about to pass the message, it's not just scientific, it's historic, it is cultural. That even our forefathers, they would always have a message embedded in our environment, or they tell you, when you see this thing happening, just know so thing will happen. I mean, so this has really lived through time. And some of these things have really stand the test of time. And somehow, as a generation, we have come up to acquire some of these skills and putting it into practice, and it's now becoming a career for us. So nature photography is something I've been doing, or I'm doing, beyond just being a botanist or beyond being nature enthusiast or a pharmacognosis or whatever thing you choose to call me. Nature photography is what I love doing. And I found this piece in me to just go out and get some of these photos that you can see on the screen. So it's not just about the other class of photography, but when you said nature, nature includes everything. It includes everything. So if you're talking about astronomic views, or you're talking about uh, documentation, you're talking about fashion, and so many other things, most of our inspirations are derived from our environment. And so nature environment is something I would really encourage you and I to do if you can. And in nature environment, for me, or natural environment, for me, nature photography um, permits me as a person to get some rare events, some lifetime experience. Uh, there are so many things, a few publications that I've done that were just a one-time experience that I went out and I just cited something. Out of that, I had to just pay attention. From that attention, I just realized that it's something new that is probably not well known, but it's something that needed some more evidences of the existence to have these documentations and so many others. And so nature photography permits you to do that. It creates these lasting memories in you. For instance, I had this moment with a leopard. That was my first time of seeing a leopard in the field. So it wasn't enough to tell anybody who had not seen it that I saw a leopard. I mean, somebody will argue it from now to tomorrow because there has to be an evidence to really prove. So anytime I recall those memories, there is this satisfaction that it gives me. And so it's something that is worth doing if you can. The other thing I would want to bring to your attention before I go into talking about how it is a tool is the techniques for capturing some of this essence of nature in photography. Some of these things are not easy to really capture because they comes with colors and colors are reflected by light. And so you need to learn how to use this thing called a camera to get good and stunning photos. So what I would always tell people when they meet me to say, we want to do photography, how do we start? And I'm, okay, learn to hold the camera. If you don't have a camera, you have an Android device, you have a smartphone. So learn to hold it. Learn to understand the triangular exposure. How are those, I mean, how do you see through the lenses? So it's a whole technique, and that's why I said I wasn't really here to tell you how to use a camera or to teach you how to snap or take photos, because there is a lot more to it. So learn to use the aperture priority and shutter priority mode. That is the knob I'm talking about, the knob that permits you to turn whether you want to put it on motion or it's on auto or it's on program or it's on manual and so many other things. How do you allow light to pass through the camera, looking at the light or the sun outside? How much more of light do you need inside the camera to get the good image? Also learn to use the ISO sensitivity. That's the International Standard Organization sensitivity. They are just numeric or numbers that are standardized for uh, cameras. They are more or less like light intensity. How much of this light will enter? So also learn to focus. I recall some times back when I was struggling to take photos, there are times I would take photos and the photo or the image is blur. Oh, I'm like, no, this was what I wanted to snap, but I didn't get this and I just got something else. So learning to focus is key in taking good photos. The other thing is, well, I didn't learn this from somebody, but it was from experience. I discovered that anytime I go up very early in the morning, the photos I will take, if I come back during the day and take those photos, the morning photos were much more better than the afternoon photos. And when I come back in the evening to take that same photo, it has this feel you will see on the image itself. So time of day is also a factor, is another thing you will have to learn to use. Learn from your mistakes is another good technique. Somebody will not consider that as a technique, but for me, I would always add it up. if you have not learned to learn from your mistake, be rest assured that you won't achieve any of those photographic objectives. So this is very, very important. And the practical tips on using your photography to support conservation cause. Plan a project. There are times I just intentionally say for 2024, I'm just going to be snapping flies. So this is a planned project for me. And I'll focus on snapping any God-given fly that come across me. Sometimes I will say, no, there is a family of plant I want to snap. So I plan a project that will permit me to go around as far as time can permit me, snap this kind of plant that I'm interested in. So in planning a project, most times I would also plan some short trips within and around the closest environment, or sometimes I take advantage of those times I'm in the field to do more with photography. So it's something you can actually do even in your house. Get your smart devices to work. And I said, if you have a camera, that's good news. If you have a smartphone, fine. And I know there are smartphones now that are even better than some cameras. So it's good that you can use some of these devices to get good photos that will really help conservation, or to drive the cause for conservation in Nigeria precisely. Donate your photos to wildlife charities. And I said to scientific communities, conservation groups, or you can as well write short stories. Thank God for Facebook that permits us to share our experiences. You can as well share your experiences in those platforms, or write articles that can be of academic importance or excellence or for research purposes. This is another good thing that you need to do. With this regard, I will tell you that like I am proud, I'm proud to tell you that with photography, I've been able to donate more than 10,000 photos to different groups or conservation groups. Some of you know iNaturalist. Maybe some of you know the Visual Museum, and so many other ones that you can actually share these images with them or photos with them. That becomes the reason why conservation will happen. There was a plant, a carnivorous plant I came across in the field. I never knew it was a carnivorous plant until when I took the photo and shared it, only for somebody somewhere to contact me and said, where was this taken from? I said, in Nigeria. And the next question was, are you sure it's from Nigeria? I said, yes. So I had to share my location for the person to be sure that I was in Nigeria. And he was like, this is the first time we're having a record of this plant existing in Nigeria. I mean, that's good news, right? And at that point, so far, I got this grant to do a project where I had to find the distribution of that particular plant. And so far, there is just one plant, one place that plant exists. And so this has really brought a lot of concern to preserve and conserve that environment for the cost of that plant. So you can imagine if I never shared that image with somebody or with a society or a group that had the impact or that have the ability to influence conservation. So it's very, very important to really share some of these images. I know sometimes I'm careless with the copywriting, like my photos, to copy them. But somehow I think it's good if you can, copyright your photos. If that's the right thing to say, it's very, very important so that people don't steal your photos. Save your photos somewhere for later use. There are photos that I took some years ago, and I've had the privilege again to reshare them after decades. Somebody will ask, we learned this plant once existed somewhere, and we don't know, and because we're in the scientific community, somebody knows somebody that knows somebody that is doing something, and before you know, you will be contacted asking about a particular plant. And most times, I've got these hard drives. Beyond just hard drives, I had to learn to back up my things on the cloud so that even when somebody asks me, do you have these photos? I said, yes, I have this and I'm willing to share. And that becomes the reason why some conservation activities would continue because there is an evidence. Now, how can photography affect or influence public perception and policy making or to change policies? Now, the truth is, I stand to be corrected. In Nigeria, it's different. We are still coming up when it comes to conservation, but photography or photographic evidences uh, removes doubt. What I mean is, it clears doubt. I don't know if Ove is here. He will testify that there are several times I would have gone birding and I got, I recorded a bird, and unfortunately, maybe there hasn't been a record, or there have not been a record or a report of this bird species. And the first question is, do you have a photo? So you can imagine if I don't have a photo, who on earth would believe me that I saw that bird? It will be very difficult for somebody to really believe me, except with photos. And it was one of the reasons why I had to save some money to buy some of these long range lenses. Uh, if I'm reporting a bird that I saw this bird somewhere and he's asking, or somebody is asking, evidences. I said, yes, I have evidences. It answers a lot of questions. It raises a lot of concerns and interest on environmental issues. Now, if there are changes in an environment and you're able to get photos of these things, and you may have not shared it for a reason, it could be another reason, or there may be a motive behind you sharing some of these images, but somehow somebody will see the photo and decide to tell you, hey, this photo you shared has these potentials in it. I've had several experiences of those moments where somebody will contact me for a photo I carelessly share on either Instagram or Facebook or on iNaturalist or LinkedIn and so many of these social media to ask, um, you snap this photo? Yes. Where? And as soon as you share, and it's like, oh, it's a good news that we can record this plant in this location. It increases our awareness for biodiversity conservation. Now, uh, impotence is another group of plant I came across on the highland. And somehow, I think the record I shared was the first record or the first report so far about the plant species. And some of these plant species led to the discovery of new plants to science. You can imagine. I wouldn't have known that this is how far these images will go. But of course, it has raised a lot of awareness to the existence of this plant species. And this has also increased the interest for conserving these plant species and the environment where these plants exist. So this is how far photography can go. Now, I have this funny photo here of the goreri monkey. Sometimes it's usually referred to as the black and white Columbus monkey, but this is not, it's actually the goreri, West African goreri also. Seeing is believing. You need to have images for somebody not to argue with you that, yes, you saw this and you didn't see this. So photographic evidence is just as important as live specimens. And I will tell you, how can you use these evidences for conservation advocacy or advocacy? Now, it is when you have these things that you would be able to tell somebody that, hey, this thing has this history linked to. And that the photo you see on the top right For those of you that may have traveled to villages, you discover that there is this barn our parents will make to store grains. I can just imagine that probably this innovation or this idea was derived from this termitarium. How would you build something and then get attached and you make all of this beautiful architectural design? Most of these things are linked to, nature as well as they are historic. And so some of these things we would capture on camera becomes the reason why stories can be shared, stories can be told. It is the reason why you will have clue to make inventions and innovations. I've seen this photo, which sometimes I have to share it with regards to the Paraguayan Falcon with the B Spirit bomber of the United States. That the innovation of creating uh, that Spirit bomber was from a Falcon, and so it has become the applied science. And at some point in time, you will see that there have been a lot of studies on raptors or birds of prey. And a lot of grants have been given for the conservation advocacy of some of these species. So photos are actually a good tool to do conservation. You see a photo on the left-hand side was through a photo I shared to the group on Facebook, and this brought a lot of debate with regards to what the species was all about. And fortunately, I had about 10 species of this group of the impotents. So photographic images are virtual specimens that you can have for either documentation purposes that would probably be used for research or for educational purposes or for policy making. You can imagine that we didn't have a record of chimpanzee or lions in Africa, and there was no archaeological records to prove that this thing existed. How do you think somebody will believe you when you tell him there once lived or there was a lion existing in this environment? This can only be possible with photographic images. So it's very, very important that you take photos and keep them for future references. We won't live forever, yes, but what will live forever or almost forever is those images we have. So I hope I didn't skip a slide. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, this is how far I've come. And it will be said, thank you, Ba, for those of us who have done a lot of presentations, seminar presentation. So thank you for listening. I would just sit back here and listen to your question, comments, and probably contribution. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elisha, for this brilliant, informative presentation. I believe many of us on this call will agree with me with that statement. So please, if you have any question, you can unmute yourself and ask Mr. Elisha directly, or if you have more contribution that you want to add to this presentation, you can also unmute, and this is a platform now that we can continue the discussion and learn more. Or you can even drop it in the chat. We'll read it out for the presenter. Thank you so much.
Yeah.